Hey everybody, this is Tim Hepworth here with, oh yep, let's start that over. It screwed me up because I can't see myself. I look up there and I don't see my beautiful face.
Keep going.
Oh jeez, well,
It's showtime.
it's showtime, so we're going to keep rolling. Anyways, what are we doing tonight? We are tying a fly, and I'm going to do a quick tie for it. We are doing this guy right here, the Sili Lefs Bonefish Fly. Okay, I'm going to be working out of our Season 4 kits, so if you do not already have one, or if you do, head on over, grab yours, open it up. Okay, we're going to be tying, this is, I believe, we're episode 12 we're on already, but go ahead, go into your kit, go ahead and grab it. We're going to get over to the vise and get started, but before you do that, what I want you to do is to like and subscribe to this video. Let us know that you're watching. If you're part of the replay squad, then drop a comment. Let us know that you were here, that you watched it, that you enjoyed it. If you are still needing one of our Season 4 kits, you can still purchase these. Just head over to www.flyfishingbowriver.com/TNLS4. Not only for this kit, but for the recipe, for this fly, and lots of other amazing things. Let's head on over the vise and get started. What I'm tying on tonight for thread is I'm using some UTC. This is 140 in this nice fluorescent green color. Okay, I'm going to start this just behind the eye. And we are going to work our way back a little ways. I'm going to come in here, take out the tag. We're going to keep rolling back. If you've got the ability to rotate your vise like I do, makes it a little easier just to lay that nice thread base all the way down. And we're going to bring our thread back up here. And we want to be a good eye length to 2 eye lengths behind that initial eye length where we're going to tie in our eyes for this fly, because it just makes it a lot easier for tying in the materials that come next, okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to tie this bead chain eyes in on top. We've tied in lots of these style of eyes before. Only real thing you need to know is to take some time to make sure you get them even, so they're even perpendicular, as well as we want to have them secured quite well. So you'll see I'm going to do some figure 8s like this. I'm going to go just around the bead chain itself, like so. And occasionally, I'm going to take a few wraps behind and in front just to make sure it's not going anywhere. Make sure it's level. Give it a good tug on it. If it stays where it's supposed to be, then we know we're in good shape. Okay? Now let's take our thread all the way back just to the top of that bend. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do here, my first material, is we're going to take some crystal braid or crystal flash. You can actually use either. I'm going to use some pink. You also have some crystal color in your kits. Either one is fine. This is more just a body to give some flash. The rest of the materials take up the majority of the fly. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. I'm going to tie it down right here at the back. Make sure I got it secured down quite well, just into that bend. I'm going to return my thread all the way up to just behind my eyes. Okay. I'm going to leave that there. I'm just going to go over here. And you just want to lay a really good, and I'm kind of pulling on this material so it stretches it out a bit. We don't have to be super bulky, but we want a nice, even, kind of, doesn't have to be tapered, just an even underbody here. Okay, so once I get all the way up here, I'm going to bring my thread back. I'm going to secure that down where it is. So it wraps in front, wraps behind, go around the material, repeat. Okay. The most of our materials are actually going to go in front of the bead. This one is just the only one we're going to work with back here. I'll go ahead and trim that out. So that's the body of my fly, okay, just like that. Looks good, okay? Now for the rest of this fly, I'm actually going to bring myself like this. And I like to switch my hook around so it's a little bit higher up in the vise itself, even though I could just turn my vise over. I like to have a good exposed hook where I can see and put materials on either side, because that's what I'm going to do in this pattern, okay? So I'm just going to take a couple more wraps to cover up that crystal braid. And then I'm going to leap up in front of the eyes, and I'm going to lay down a little thread base again. Now the first thing I'm going to do is, in your kits, you've got some crystal flash. So just flash like this, just simple, okay? I'm going to take one of these really long strands you have in there. You probably got 2 or 3. We're only going to need 1. Okay, so I'm going to double it in half, like so. Okay, so once I found that, then I come down to the bottom. I'm going to stick my scissors in there, find that halfway point, and snip it. And I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to take those 2, match it up with these 2. We're just creating a whole bunch of sections to this crystal flash. That one didn't snip properly, so I'm going to snip that. And now I'm going to double it up again. We're actually going to do this doubling process 3 times before we tie it in. So now that I got that one, I'll snip it as well. We're just taking as much advantage of the materials that we have. So I've done it twice. That'll actually be good. That'll give us 8 on either side, or 8 in total, 4 on either side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, tie in 4 on one side. I just need them to hang out behind the hook a ways, so kind of cut the distance in half. Take some thread wraps. Make sure it's pinned down. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this on this side and just fold it over and tie it in so it goes onto the other side of the hook. Lay that down. I'm going to tighten up my vise just a smidge. And we're going to leave those kind of full length for right now until we get putting in our other materials and we can kind of see where we want them to go. So you'll see I've split them on either side of the hook. Okay. Just like so. Next material we're going to work with is kind of a funky one and not a super easy one to work with. We're working with some calf tail and we're doing it with chartreuse. So it looks just like this. Okay, so we're going to take a pretty good clump. I would say about half of what we're giving you there. We're going to take half of that and we're going to stack it. This is actually meant to be tied fairly sparse. You don't want a ton of extra material in there on this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, put it in my hair stacker, and this stuff can be kind of notoriously hard to stack. So give it a few good wraps. You may have to check it. Looks pretty decent. Doesn't have to be perfectly even. We're not going for that. We're just trying to get the majority of those of that tail fibers together. Okay, I'm going to pull out any of that under fur that's in there. I'm going to switch hands. Kind of regather. Okay, now when I'm measuring for length here, I'm going to use the majority of this length. I want it to, from the eyes, I want it to hang out just beyond that hook bend. So it's about 1 1/4, 1 1/2 of the overall length of the hook shank is just going to be out behind. And when I tie it in, I want to make sure it splits and goes on either side of that hook. So now that I have it here, I'm going to switch hands. I'm going to lean it down. Yeah, of course my thread would go on me. It's okay, I got to back up. I'll come back to that chartreuse color in just a moment. So I'm just going to lift this off here, just because I lost my thread. Start another thread. I'll come back to my chartreuse in a minute. Now I still haven't lost it. I've still been holding it in this hand, so I'm going to bring it, lay it back down. I'm going to get that attached right up on top, okay? I don't want it to be wrapping around the sides. I want it to stay right there. So I'm going to take a good significant amount of thread wraps and let them start spilling down towards the eye. I can see the material sitting like that. I'm going to take it and make sure it splits on either side of the hook and just kind of sits in the hook like that. I'm okay with it sitting just like that for now. The next thing I need to do is come in here and clean up this hair. So I need to make sure that I can get it all away from that eye. So take some fine point scissors of some kind. I'm going to come in here and then finish the touch up with my trusty cauterizer because I love using this little tool. Okay, so I'm going to go like this, get it away from the eye. If you don't have one of these, just use your scissors. Works just as good. Just like that. Take a few more thread wraps. Like so. I've made sure that that hair is split and gone on kind of both sides of that hook. Okay, and when it's done, it's going to kind of sit there. And we wanted a hair that flares a little, so it keeps a little bit of that profile at that angle. Okay. Now, next material I'm going to put in here is actually just going to be our final material, and that's going to be our Sili legs. But what I'm going to do first before I do that is I'm going to cut my crystal flash to length. So I'm going to pull it all up, kind of hold it together, and I want to cut it just behind that hair. I want it to extend slightly further than the hair. Got one kind of out on its own, a rogue. So that's where I want it to extend just beyond that hair. I'm happy with that and where that's sitting. Make sure that sits down a little, just like that. You can see that hook just starting to poke through. Okay, so last material we need to put in here on this fly. What I'm going to do real quick here, guys, I'm going to just whip finish this so I can go back to my thread, which miraculously has been put back in its bobbin. And I'll get back to my chartreuse so I can finish off and maintain that nice color up at the head. Okay, so I'm just going to lay a few thread wraps down to cover up that white. I just like to have that nice chartreuse cone head on it. Okay, now last materials we're going to put in here. We're going to put in some Sili legs. Okay, so what I'm going to do is you can see these ones are kind of purple in the middle and they go out to that orange color on the outside. I'm going to find right in the middle of that purple and I'm going to cut it. Okay, so I'm going to work with 2 at a time. So I'm going to tie in the purple. And I'm going to tie them very specifically on one side or the other. So this one, I'm going to tie in on the near side. Secure it just in front of the eyes. Make sure you get some thread wraps down over the butts of it. And now those are going to hang off the near side, okay? I'm going to grab the other set that I trimmed. Make sure that those purple tips are aligned. And this time I'm going to do it on your side, the far side of the fly. Okay, make sure that gets good and secured down. Throw in lots of thread wraps now. We're going to kind of finish off the cone of this head. And you can see from the top, they just split. They splay. One's going to go on one side. One's going to go on the other. Just like that. These legs are going to dance. These are going to be kind of the biggest part of this fly. The most movement you're going to see is going to come out of those. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and whip finish this now. I've got a nice cone. Set that down there. A nice cone shape here. Whip finish it. I'm going to put a little bit of resin on it for security. Come in, trim that out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my all-time favorite here, just my Solarized bone dry. This stuff soaks in really well and is going to really secure those thread wraps. I'll grab my UV torch. Get that nice and firm now. Make sure it's not tacky, and I know that it's good and dry. Now I'm going to trim these legs, okay? So I want these legs to be roughly 2 times the length of the hook shank. So if I go from the eye to the back of the hook, that's about the length I'm going to judge out the back. And then match up the other ones to it. Same thing. So those guys are going to sit back. They're going to be dancing behind everything else. Make sure that those legs are all even to each other. If you need to do a little trim, which I need to trim that one just a smidge. And there you go, guys. There is your Sili Lefs Bonefish Fly. I guarantee you that will get you some bonefish if you get down where you can catch them. All right? Again, guys, it's Tim here with Fly Fishing Board Outfitters and Thursday Night Live Fly Tying. I want to remind you to subscribe and like this video. Leave us a comment. Let us know you were there. And if you take the time to click on that little bell sign, what that's going to do is going to notify you each and every time we have a new video come out. So I'm excited to get on to the next pattern next week. We'll talk to you soon.